Cameron was the kid that would just see this and go, I want to do that, and he would do it. From the day he was born, he walked at 8 months old. He was just, oh my gosh, hyperdrive from the minute he was born. Cameron was just, he everything he did 500%. Over the top, absolutely ridiculous. The more risk, the better. The more excitement, the better. The more adrenaline, the better. The bigger the thrill, the bigger the laugh. He was just full of life, full. He grew up with a sister and a brother, very close to his brother, drove his sister absolutely out of her mind. She was the oldest and he was the baby. And his brother and him, I think Cam was, even though he was the baby, he led the way. And his brother was on his tails trying to keep up with him, even though he was younger, because he did everything. There'd be things that he'd go to do and he'd just look at you like, oh, I'm not really sure, but then he'd just jump in, both feet. I think there was something about getting past the fear of it all that drove him. Cameron came to my house on a Sunday. We were celebrating his brother's birthday. So we had a blast, and he went home that night. Before he left, he gave me a great big hug, and I said, I want you to go. And he said, I don't want to go either, which was a very odd thing for him to say. About 3 o'clock in the morning, he called me in the middle of the night, and he said he woke up with chest pain. And I said, chest pain? And he said, yeah, I have chest pain. I said, well, do you still have it? And he goes, no. And I said, are you short of breath? And he said, no. And I just had this funky feeling in the pit of my stomach. So I said, you really should go to the doctor tomorrow. And I was leaving in the morning to go to a business trip. He said, go to the doctor in the morning. I started on my way up north to go to my business trip, and he texted me on my way up and told me he'd been to the doctor, and they thought that he had maybe had asthma or some problem like that it was a breathing problem, they thought. And they gave him medication for breathing treatment and told him to go home and rest, and he probably had a virus. And we got to Friday morning. Friday morning was the morning I was supposed to come back from my business trip, and I was on my lunch break, and I got a phone call from his girlfriend. And she had gone home at lunch and walked into the bedroom, and he didn't answer her at the door, so she smacked him on the foot and said, Cam, get up. And then she looked up and noticed that he was not breathing. He called me about 9:30 in the morning and asked me if he could take ibuprofen with the other medication he was taking. And I said, sure, of course you can, take it. And the phone call cut off in the middle of the phone call. And I tried calling him back, knowing that he had really bad reception in his house, and I couldn't get a hold of him. Well, when Sarah called me and told me that he wasn't breathing, at first I was like, yes, he is, Sarah. You need to calm down. She was just freaking out. And I said, you need to calm down. And she goes, no, I'm telling you, he's not. I said, then you need to get off the phone and call 911. And she said, the paramedics are already here and they're doing CPR. And I knew. I've been in the medical field. I'm an ER nurse. I've been an ER nurse for, that's all I've ever done in nursing, really. And when she told me they were doing CPR, when they're doing CPR on a 24-year-old kid, the outcome is not going to be great. I got the paramedic on the phone, and he said, you're his mother? And I said, yes. And he said, unfortunately, your son's passed away. He had probably been dead for hours by the time she found him at lunch, and they think that he probably died sometime around the time he spoke with me on the phone. He probably died of sudden cardiac arrest. So, like the basketball players on the court that just dropped dead on the court. For me, the strangest part about losing him that way was that I always thought I was going to get that phone call. Cam was riding a skateboard and got hit by a car. Cameron was surfing and something happened. Cameron was snowboarding and he hit his head and this happened. Or driving a car. I never in a million years thought I would get a call that Cameron died in his sleep at 24 years old. He was working for PHP. You support your kids. You do that. Whatever you want to do, honey. Whatever you want to do, honey. Whatever you want to do, honey. And I remember him he came out and met me for lunch one day. And he said, I just want you to know that I bought life insurance. He said, I don't feel like I can support buying life insurance if I don't feel like it's important enough for me to have it. And I'm like, Cameron, you're 24 years old. I never really understood until after. And then I was grateful He knew how important it really was. And you would be absolutely amazed to know how much debt and bill and financial responsibility is left over. You can think that you're young and what can happen and everything's going to be great, but things can change in a heartbeat. And the more successful you are, or the faster you're successful in life, the more you need to prepare for a potential inevitability that you might not be there tomorrow, to make sure that those things are taken care of. And I know for him this was a big deal, and I can't help but think that, you know, he was very pleased about his decision to buy life insurance, not just because it was what he was passionate about trying to give to others, but I think he knows that I did not have to struggle after he died. I think he was just an amazing individual, and he was probably much wiser than 24 years. I always say this, of all the people on this earth that could have been blessed to nurture his soul for 24 years, regardless of the outcome, I'm grateful it was me, because I think I learned more from him than he learned from me.